Hello and welcome. It's Xanatrixidare. Been a long time since I updated, but I felt that this particular topic really fucking needed it, especially since it affects all gamers everywhere and affected me personally. I've received a final piece of information that fits together the new Nintendo, their localization, and why I think they might be trying to censor everything. So, everybody knows about the Fire Emblem Fates debacle. Everybody. It's, to most people, they don't care because they don't read into it. They didn't care from the beginning. For those of us who do care, we know it's censorship. We know it's wrong. So, first, I'm going to cover the beginning, or at least my awareness, where I became aware of the Fire Emblem Fates controversy. It started July of last year. In July of last year, Kotaku, Polygon, the assholes we don't give a shit about anymore, they made the assumption that one of the support conversations between the male version of the main character and a unit known as Soleil was a gay conversion therapy storyline. Now, this was completely debunked. In the description below, I'll have a link to the Niche Gamer article, which has a translation of all the support conversations to show. It's a little cringeworthy because it's Fire Emblem. Waifu stuff is going to be cringeworthy. But it's not rape or date rape or a gay conversion story, any of that. It's magic, and just read the story. And then for a while, it fell out of the news. The next awareness I got was, oh my god, they're editing things like the Skinship minigame, I believe it was called, in Japan, which is a nice, innocent little game where you go to your base in between battles and you pet someone on the hair or on their face or on their shoulder. Nothing super fucking, oh my god, you're playing a hentai touch game. No, it's pretty fucking innocent. But they removed that. They removed that entirely. And in removing it, this is what has occurred. Skinship was censored for no reason. Yes, it's gone. Live 2D assets are still in, but you cannot touch them. In the Japanese version, there were 3,196 audio files, whereas in the NA and EU version, there's only 1,208. It's 1,988 removed audio files due to the removal of this minigame. You are removing almost 2/3 of the game's spoken dialogue, which is stupid. And even though all this content was cut, the game's file size is bigger than the Japanese version. Swimsuits were removed. Character names were changed for arbitrary reasons. Skill and class names, again, changed for arbitrary reasons. And then some very famous, or infamous, I should say, edits have occurred recently, or, well, have been discovered more recently. Like the "rar means I love you" in dragon scene between male Corrin, or I think female Corrin too. I think it's just between Corrin and their child unit. I'm not 100% on that, please correct me if I'm wrong. Instead of the more serious tone and context of the actual scene. Characters' confession scenes have been shortened. They've changed the characterizations of characters for no reason. Dual audio is not available, despite the fact that the previous game, Fire Emblem Awakening, had it. Also, the voice actress of Azura/Aqua said in an interview that Treehouse, Nintendo Treehouse, the localization group for this, provided no direction to the voice actors. And so the dub is all over the place. Now, in this picture, you'll see on the right a tweet from someone who claims to be a localization manager for Nintendo. Adam Sessler, who has fallen into the pit of stupidity that is SJWs, asks, so what would many of you, good people, do to show your opposition to the toxicity that is hurting this community? And someone else, Charles Randall, I'm not aware of who they probably are, tweets, maybe if every dev/gamer tweeted, I support Zoe Quinn, aka the Quinspiracy, we'd create too many targets to attack. And this guy responds with that. Now, I don't know if this person actually is a localization manager for Nintendo, but if he is what he claims he is, that's a big problem. Ideology infecting a localization group is retarded. But there's more. Now, I am going to have to blow up this next image, so you'll see it zoom in after I'm finished changing to this next image. This is a post from one of the Chans from November last year from someone who alleges to be a prior Treehouse employee, an ex-Treehouse employee. I am not claiming that this is factual, but the information does shed light if it is. If it's not, even then, it leaves much to be thought about. So the poster makes a point that the entire point of Fire Emblem Fates is about customization, and it's the primary selling point of the game that sets it apart from previous Fire Emblem titles. They're taking away options, and then claims to tell us that they know why the changes were made. That it wasn't about ideology, that it wasn't about money, that it wasn't about ideology or bias, it was about money. Pardon me, I misspoke. Apparently, localization teams get paid based on the amount of work they do and the time it takes to do it. That actually sounds like most jobs, but I think that in this context, they mean the amount of work that needs to be done to a finished product to make it, quote-unquote, acceptable. And then the time it takes to make those changes. The original game is shipped, and they audit it, send an invoice for it to be accepted in the market. And apparently, NOJ, Nintendo of Japan, is glass when it comes to foreign market business decisions. They roll with Nintendo of America, and thus Nintendo Treehouse. Apparently, this guy says that Treehouse sees a big game with an opportunity for a big paycheck, so they audit a bunch of unneeded changes in the name of localization so they can line their pockets. It also made the localization take so long, they had to remove and change textures and alter game code. Someone asks, do you have a source? And they say that they are a former Treehouse employee who left right after Twilight Princess, that there was apparently some grade A bullshit with that project, and that they might be guessing, but they know some of the people who still work there and wouldn't be surprised that they would still do it. However, if you need a source, he says, read the old Iwata Asks about Xenoblade X. They mention localization. He thinks that Kojima mentions the audit and how surprised he was at the size of the bill and marvels how much work it must be. And someone else asks, can you tell us about the industry as a whole? Says, not much you don't already know. Xseed seems the best. They appear to care. Never worked there, have friends who do, one of them a former NOA employee. About the industry as a whole, the driving factor behind localization is almost never about ideology, money, pure and simple. You have one or two SJW types on a localization team, never enough to change the tide of a product. It's greed, entirely. Why not change a few things, charge a bigger bill for it, and get more money and a more secure job since you can justify a longer dev cycle with more changes? Uses saying that localization is a car repair shop. You come in for an oil change, and the devs all say, oh no, there are all these other things wrong that need to be done. And apparently the jackpot is trying to justify texture or model changes, which we've been seeing a lot of lately, because then they get to charge a lot of extra money and time on the project. This guy goes into more why he left after Twilight Princess, because they left plot holes in the story, especially near the end. And they did it solely to tack something extra for the audit. He left America, went to Japan, and taught English. Now he's apparently a community manager for a Japanese company in Osaka. I'm not sure about the actual validity of all these claims. I only have these excerpts from this particular thread. If someone could, in the comments, provide more clarification to this thread, whether this person was trolling or whether this person provided credentials, it would be much appreciated. I'll add it to the description box, and I will tag you as a contributor to the video. So now we have a bit of clarity, a bit of insight as to maybe why this is happening. But it goes further than that. We have a claim, and I'm not sure about the validity of these reviews on November 8th, 2015. There was a review from an employee about Nintendo of America that says that that it's essentially a dead-end job to work for Nintendo of America. Another person says that Reggie Fils-Aimé, the guy we all apparently know and love, is ruining the company by being biased and terrorizing people that he doesn't like, and destroying avenues of promotion for people that he doesn't like, and creates an old boy system of cliques. These were detailed in 2 pictures on a tweet from John Kraft. There will be a link in the description below. So now we have more insight as to why Nintendo of America might be doing all these things. The entire root is rotten. It's falling apart. Sorry for the pause. And the typing. Had to tell someone something. It was urgent. Anyway, we've gotten a little bit deeper into this issue. However, further yet, another set of Twitter responses starts with Damned Dirty Gamer, goes into the Kana Korin reunion that I spoke of, and then a localization member for big AAA titles for 10 plus years goes into detail as to why Treehouse screwed up their job. I'm not going to read the responses. I'm going to leave a link into the description below, but it boils down to localization is supposed to be a minimal impact job. You're supposed to translate what is translatable into a comfortable cadence for the audience. What you can't translate, you need to adapt for cultural differences. Certain phrases in Japanese are untranslatable. You have to find an equivalent. This is way of life. You don't make a line-for-line translation. You make the line-for-line translation as your skeleton for the actual localization, but you don't cut out content and you don't make shit up. This is the point of this guy's tweets. Go and read them. The name is, I think, Cibiscosis. It could be Kibiscosis. It starts with a C. I'm not sure which reading is correct. Read the initial two responses by Damned Dirty Gamer, the pictures, and then read all of Cibiscos's responses. In doing so, you'll come to understand how localization is truly supposed to work. Link will be in the description below. So, from there, we have the Kana Korin reunion scene. I actually translated the last two boxes of the Japanese version of the scene. I'll post a link to my source, the actual video of the Japanese game, along with a transcript of my translation. I translated this with the help of my brother, so it's not just me. But it starts out, which is like an English person going, Otosan, arigatou. Dad, thank you. これからは我慢しなくていいんだね. This is a harder sentence to translate. It's along the lines of, we don't have to worry about this anymore. We don't have to struggle anymore. We don't have to deal with this anymore. And the particle iindane is sort of like going to something like, hey, yeah, isn't that right? Isn't that great? Without it actually turning into a question. It's a lighthearted seeking agreement note. The reference for this sentence is, since they're reunited and Korin has had to keep separate from Kana for so long, now they don't have to deal with that anymore. They can be a family again. Kana also says, ずっと一緒にいていいんだね, which is, now we'll always be together. Again, いいんだね, isn't it great? And then, 私とっても嬉しいよ. I'm really happy. But instead, we get Rar's dragon for I love you, because it's stupid. There's also other examples in the support conversation between Saizo and Belka/Beruka. The original Japanese conversation is two assassins talking about the gravity of taking a human life. Saizo feels bad about it, Belka not so much. They're trying to comfort each other about it, say, hey, take care of me about this. In the US version, and I'm not even kidding, they changed it to ... Just an ellipsis between the two for 4 panels, and that's it. As if, oh, they're ninjas, they don't talk, so funny. And then there was another one between Keaton and his child unit, whose name I forget. In the original version, they're talking about how they're happy, and then she starts crying, and Keaton's all like, hey, why are you crying? Whereas in the English version, we get them wagging their tails, and then him making a snide remark about, oh, there goes my tail again. All these edits are stupid. They're unnecessary. And they detract from the experience of playing the game for its story. Now, I'm not a personal fan of Fire Emblem. I'm not. I never have been. But the next issue is Bravely Second. I was first made aware of Bravely Second's localization problems through the editing of their costumes, which is something that had happened with Bravely Default, and while I don't like it, I can live with it. The game is still there to experience in full. Just the costumes are gone, and that's stupid, but again, Bravely Second was having the same problems, and I was like, okay, well, I'll still get the game. I had it on pre-order. I had the collector's edition on pre-order. Then I learned that the art book that comes with the collector's edition in the European version, which is going to be the NA version, was edited to remove 10 pictures, all of which were fairly innocent. One was a guy with blood on his face. Oh, blood on his face. It's not like it's guts and gore and intestines dripping out. And the other 7 were apparently other 9 were apparently too provocative. Some were Agnes with her arms crossed, or with her arms clasped behind her back, looking over her shoulder slightly coyly. Some were Agnes and other characters wrapped up in red ribbon, but not very tightly. It didn't look like a BDSM scene. But they removed them. They removed them all from the art book, except for one of the red ribbon pictures, which I don't understand. I got a little more upset. I canceled my collector's edition pre-order and went for a standard edition because I wasn't going to get an art book that had been edited. Then I was linked to, I had been hearing some rumors, and I was linked to a thread from V. And someone in V claimed, and this I'm going to say claimed because no one knew at the time, and this guy was the only one posting this, said that the censorship is even worse than expected. There's cut and manipulated content to make it more quote-unquote child-friendly. This person is apparently at least bilingual. They played the Japanese version and felt, and this is the quote, "I finished the Japanese version and felt something off about the outcomes of the side quests in the English version. I just finished the side quest with Ominous and Artemia, and they made a pretty big change with how the outcome works. Hard to explain in more detail without going into major spoilers, but I'll try to keep it major spoiler-free." So, under the spoiler tag, he says he chooses to side with Artemia, which results in fighting Ominous and Bahamut. At the end of it, instead of Bahamut dying, they switched over to the side quest ending that comes after a major event further down the story, in which it's a good ending for both sides no matter which choice you pick. Essentially, they've removed player agency. I will also leave a link to the archive of this thread in the description box below. But they removed player agency. There's no bad endings to side quests. You get the third middle path good ending. Nobody was sure that this was true. Nobody. Then we get this from the feelofavideogame.tumblr.com, who is someone who has been a slightly more reliable source on these things. And they say, and they were asked, a whole ending was taken out of Bravely Second, specifically the bad ending. It's not really a question. And the person responds, okay, here's the rundown on what happened to Bravely Second according to people in the know. Spoiler warning, so here's a read more. Bravely Second has one time loop. During the first cycle, you cannot get the perfect outcomes to any side quests or events. You make choices and the outcomes are based on those, but many of them are exclusive and none of them are perfect. You also get a bad ending. In the second cycle, with the previous knowledge the player characters have, you can get all the good outcomes and the good ending. The localization cut out the second cycle and the first cycle's outcomes and put the second cycle's good outcomes onto the first cycle. As a result, everything is clumsy and there are numerous holes, and a ton of dialogue and such was cut because a big chunk of the game is now effectively gone. Now, they make a claim here that is going to be... it's going to be combated later in this video. Nintendo of America did not do this. Spinari Sonari localized the game, and apparently a Square Enix guy was in charge. I can only assume they did this due to complaints about the time loop in the first game, except the problem doesn't really exist in Bravely Second, so all they did was butcher the fuck out of it. Again, I'll leave a link to this in the description below. At this point, I was done. I canceled my pre-order. I couldn't play this game if they had butchered all my ability to enjoy and suffer through my choices. They removed player agency. Then we got even more detail besides the guy on V from someone on the GameFAQs boards. It explains how the asterisk sideworks work in full detail. Major plot spoilers. So, in the Japanese version of the game, asterisk side quests work that if you clear them for the first time, you get an ending where Edea questions whether she made the right choice, and you get an ending for siding with the asterisk user you side with. So, bad end. Somebody dies, somebody lives, or something bad happens, something good happens to who you pick. When you go through the game after the major event that causes the second cycle, you have the option to play all the asterisk side quests again, join the other side to acquire the asterisk you didn't get the last time. If you do so, though, you get an ending that is different. So, an example they use is the Red Mage and Thief side quest. If you choose to fight the Red Mage, the result is research on a plot device is scrapped, and they can't use another plot device, and that's that. And if you choose to fight the Red Mage again the second time, the research on the plot device is still scrapped, but the extra part is that the assistance to the Red Mage says that they'll continue to research so that the world can have the plot device. So, to summarize, the first time you fight, you get outcome A, and the second times you fight them, you get outcome C, giving closure. If you choose to fight the other asterisk loser, you'll get outcome B, in which you side with the other asterisk user at the first time, and in the second time you get outcome D. And then if you choose to switch sides going between the two on the second run, you'll still get the good outcome. This mechanic applies to every single asterisk side quest in the Japanese version. This guy has a bunch of examples of where it's all been edited in game. So we actually have true examples. Again, I'll post the link to this in the description below. I might actually archive everything just to make sure that these are always available. So, we get that. And then I recently received a link to the Total Control podcast, episode 66. At the 52-minute mark, they talk about how the game was changed. And then they drop the bomb. A Square Enix PR representative told them that Nintendo is the one that made the localization change demands. So it goes back to Nintendo again. And there you have it, a full picture of the two greatest localization blunders Nintendo has made in the last 6-8 months, around that point. And why did they do this? I'm inclined to believe the alleged former Treehouse employee, mostly money, but because there are so many ideologically biased people in Treehouse, they're killing two birds with one stone. They make the money and make the changes along their ideological lines to essentially satisfy their virtue signaling. Pardon me for all my stumbling over words. It's early and I'm angry. Again, pardon me for the interruption in the middle of the video, but I needed to correct somebody on information pertaining to this that I am talking about right now. Draw your own conclusions. Don't take my word for it. This is just my view on things. I will be posting links to everything that I said I'd post links to. Anything I don't have links to, I'm sorry. And this is Xanatrix Adare signing off. Remember, you don't only seek the truth seeks you.